narrative framing. What the fuck even is that? What? You saw it in the title? You were like, what the hell is that? Or maybe you're like, oh, I know exactly what that is. Can't wait to see what this loser has to say about it. The reason why you may not know what narrative framing is because I'm not completely sure that I didn't just make it up. There's a chance I invented it in my own brain and it's not even real. I did try Googling it once and it was talking about like a framing narrative, which is a different thing than what I'm talking about. So it might not be real. Okay, so narrative framing is basically how you show. There's a big ass fly in this room. Oh shit. That's the biggest fly. This is not important, but it is the biggest fly I've ever seen in my life. So narrative framing is basically how a thing, a piece of media, like a film or a show, or maybe even a book. I'm not going to talk about books, but I think it's important that we know books exist. Are we all aware of books? Cool, we can move on. It's how the piece of media shows the audience what it's trying to convey to you, which sounds complicated, but it isn't, I promise you. It's basically like the scene saying, here's a character, here's what they are in the context of the story, and the narrative framing is the thing around them that is created with, music or that's the same thing. Music and sound are the same thing. Or cinematography, or other character reactions and dialogue and stuff. It's all of that, all of the possible things. Anything can be used to create narrative framing. It's very versatile. It's all of those things that show you, the audience, who the character is. Not the other characters, the audience. You are the subject of narrative framing. If you want to feel special in your life, there you go. Feel special now. You're welcome. Some obvious examples, because I think my explanation still kind of sounds insane. Because I am insane. I'm sorry, I'm not over this fly. I need a newspaper. It's important to note that, I'm not pro-murder. This fly is really distracting me. And now it's gone. So I actually don't know what to do about that. But the fly is gone. I'm gonna keep this with me just in case. Obvious examples of narrative framing. So, narrative framing it's like an important thing to be used in shows or films where there's like a character who's a bad person who does bad actions, because then they do a bad action and you're like, oh, this is the main character, so the show is saying we should all do this bad action. But with narrative framing, you can, show that the character is a bad person, so then we understand, oh, they're doing a bad action because they're the bad guy, so I shouldn't like them and I shouldn't recreate this action. We get into that a little bit more later, but for right now we're going to talk about Always Sunny. In Always Sunny episode, I want to say roughly season 9, episode something, it's called The Gang Dines Out. I know it's called The Gang Dines Out because they go and they dine out. Like none of us have been doing for the past year and a half, hopefully. So in The Gang Dines Out, we see oh, the fucking fly is back. In The Gang Dines Out, Dennis Reynolds is being the worst, as he always is. He's complaining to waiters, and he's making them get him matches for his chair, and he's also not wanting matches for his chair, and he's just being a general asshole. Now, we as an audience could take this and think, oh, this guy's the main character, so he's a symbol of morals, so we should all go out, be terrible to waitstaff. But that's not the case, bitch. Don't be terrible to waitstaff. Because Always Sunny uses the reactions of the characters around Dennis to show us what he's doing is bad. Because also in the scene, there's a waiter. Waiter's a normal dude. No interesting quirks. He's just a guy. And you watching, yeah, you right there, you're also uninteresting and you have no quirks. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. So you relate more to the waiter than you do to Dennis, because you probably work a minimum wage job. Just statistically. And so, when the waiter gets angry at Dennis, we, the audience, also get angry at Dennis. So the narrative, which is a story, so the story is like, let's use character reactions to put a little frame around Dennis. Shouldn't we be angry at him? So now we're not going to go and recreate Dennis's actions. In fact, we're going to recreate the waiter's actions. Someone's shitty to us in a minimum wage job. We're gonna get angry, and we're gonna be like, it's not right of you. And that's a good moral message to send out to the world. This technique of using character reactions to frame a person in the narrative is also used in all of the sitcoms. Every single one. They all have a straight man. And a straight man is normally the main character. He's kind of the audience stand-in. He's just there to react to the nonsense of everyone else around him. This is like Michael in Arrested Development, or Jeff and Britta in Community, depending on what episode you're watching. They really flip that around a lot. There's also other sitcoms that I can't name right now. I guess Ross is kind of the straight man in Friends. And in How I Met Your Mother, it's obviously Ted. In Schitt's Creek, I guess it's Stevie. Because I know she's like her own character and she has her own eccentricities and stuff, but mostly she's just reacting to the nonsense that the Roses are doing. So there's the trope for you, and we can move on now. For reference, I did mention Arrested Development there. I said that Michael was the straight man. In season 4 and 5, this changed, and Michael became as weird and eccentric as everyone else. And that's why season 4 and 5 of Arrested Development really suck. That's why they're bad. Because they stopped doing the thing. Anyway, another example. Thor 1. I watched it recently, and so it's in my head. And I know no one's thinking about Thor 1 in 2021, but shut up. So in Thor 1, there's a point where they go to a cafe, and Thor gets a cup of something, and he's like, this is great, another, and then he smashes the cup to the ground. And you're like, oh, Thor, you shouldn't be smashing cups to the ground. But why do we think that? What tells us that Thor should not be smashing cups to the ground? Well, my friends, it's our own lived experiences. Also character reactions, because all the characters are like, Thor, you shouldn't be smashing cups to the ground. And so we're also like, Thor, you shouldn't be smashing cups to the ground, because you shouldn't be smashing cups to the ground. So that's a combination of character reactions and our own experiences. We understand you shouldn't smash cups to the ground. That's just the thing humans know. So when he smashes a cup to the ground, we understand Thor doesn't know human things, because Thor isn't human. And we are already explicitly told Thor is not human, but this scene frames him in the narrative as someone who doesn't understand human culture and needs to learn human culture, and that's the plot of the first Thor movie. I just saw The Fly, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get you now when I finish this sentence, and now it's gone again. Villain songs! I'm dancing, there's no song playing though. I'll put it in post. Maybe I won't. Just dance to nothing. Maybe we'll cut out the explanation. Villain songs are played in a... Oh, I just fucking heard you, you bitch. This is driving me insane now. Villain songs are played in spooky, scary minor keys. A minor key is a sinister key. I don't know why it's a sinister key. I got bored when I started researching it. But minor keys are just, we're indoctrinated to be like, oh, spooky. Spooky as fuck. And so, when a character shows up, a little theme song starts playing for them. This is a piano now. A little theme song starts playing for them and it's in a minor key. Your brain's like, oh shit, that guy sucks. That guy's a bitch. And every action he does from now on, I'm gonna understand in my brain that's not a good action to take, because he's a minor key character. And you don't trust minor key characters. Not like minor key characters. Like key characters who have a small role, but like characters who are, there you fucking are, okay. Fuck yes. Right. Don't have to think about that anymore. The fly is dead. Right. Come here, child. Oh fuck, have I lost it? Oh, that's gross. There's wings. I know it has wings. But... what? Oh, my little plants are spiking me. Ew. Don't twitch on me. I probably should show you dead flies. Probably not good content. What bin does a dead fly go in? Is this recycling? Is it compost? I'm gonna put it in the compost bin. Yeah. Yeah. The dead fly is now in the compost bin. And I'm back to talk about minor keys. So this is how music is used as a way to frame the narrative, because, you know, minor keys are scary and shit. The same goes for, like, you know, if the character has, like, nice, happy music, we're like, oh, cool, you're a nice dude, and I'm gonna be doing this the whole time. This is the rest of the video, welcome. So we can see this be used in all of the Disney movies. You know, every Disney movie, the villain has a minor key song. I mean the musicals. Disney doesn't make musicals anymore. But I forgot that. What am I saying? Disney villains, their songs are in minor keys, and that's why we're spooked by them, and that's how we know they suck. Even on the occasion they don't suck that much, but they always suck. Like, people try to be like, oh, the Disney villains, being an adult is growing up and realizing your favorite Disney villain was right. And like, no, they were all wrong. They all killed a lot of people. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just scroll up on my thing here. But I don't think murder is justifiable. Like, even if you have, like, a good motive, I don't think any of the Disney villains were right. And those were some obvious examples of narrative framing, just to show you the basics. We're now on the second step. This is stairs. We're on step 3. We're going up a notch. Kicking it up a level. What about when it's not as obvious? Well, when you don't know. For example, there's a lot of films when someone will be out, they'll be committing murder, and a nice little pop song will be playing, and you'll be like, oh god, this is my jam. Yeah, Istanbul is not Constantinople. They changed it. And you're like, a murder's going on, but I'm just having a good time. And so, then in your head, you're like, good time, murder, and then you go out and kill someone. No, you don't. You've never killed someone. You're not a criminal. If you are, go to jail, please. I don't want murderers on the street. This is because you can use a lot of different narrative framing techniques. For example, in Megamind, my boy Megamind is always committing crimes. There's always upbeat music playing. And you're like, yeah, Megamind, oh, you're my boy. And he is your boy. But not at that moment in time, because he's doing crimes. And crimes aren't good. That's my PSA for today. Don't commit crime. We see the reactions of the characters he's committing crimes to. And so, we're then like, oh, Megamind, you're hurting people. These people are upset now. And you're like, Megamind is good, because upbeat music, but the crime he's doing, that's bad. And that's the plot of Megamind. So you can just watch one scene of Megamind committing a crime to some upbeat music, and then have a guy be like, oh, Megamind, whoa. And you know, the plot of Megamind, you can guess the rest of it, it's really obvious. It's actually not, there are a lot of good twists in that movie. Watch Megamind. This video's turned to a PSA for Megamind. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. So this is gonna be a dark statement for you. There are people on the street, and I can see them looking up to my window, and they haven't moved for a few minutes, and I've just been dancing around here just filming this, and I'm worried that they think I'm weird. I mean, I am weird, but I don't want them to know that. Anyway, complex characters. Let's talk Mob Psycho 100. I believe it's the best piece of art ever made. If you disagree, I don't want to know you as a person. In Mob Psycho 100, there's a character called Reagan Arataka. He is my lord and savior. I adore him. But he is a complex character. So let's look at some of our narrative framing devices here. So the public loves Reagan. The public's like, Reagan, you're great for... I know in season 2 there was that brief bit we're known. But overall, people tend to... Reagan helps people, and people are like, Reagan, my king. And so that would mean, is Reagan good? But then, you see on posters and stuff, it's like a self-proclaimed psychic. And we understand all the very obvious signs this is a scam from our learned experiences. So, does Reagan suck? But also, Mob, our main character, our audience stand-in, kind of, he's like, he loves Reagan, he thinks Reagan's great, and so, is Reagan good? But then, Reagan just barely pays Mob any money for the job he does, and we know that's bad. Mob doesn't know that's bad, but we know that's bad from our learned experiences. So does Reagan suck? But then also, my master is a genuinely good guy. I'm fine. That scene kills me, but I'm fine. So is Reagan good? My child. Oh, how little you know. Reagan is complex. Which you didn't know because I said it at the beginning of this, but I bet you didn't think that Spiel was going to get to that place. I mean, I bet you did, but whatever. The point is, in each of these scenarios, we can see that the things that make Reagan good are when people like him, because he's helping them and he's doing good things. So we learn from that, doing good things and helping people and giving good advice, banging things. Those are great things. But then the things that we know are bad, the scamming and the underpaying your employees, those are bad. Because Reagan's complex. We can learn the moral lesson. Conning people and underpaying your employees is bad. Helping people and giving good advice is good. Oh, Mob Psycho 100. What have you not taught me? Joker. The movie Joker. Did people like it? People loved it. People loved the movie Joker. I didn't like the movie Joker. It's my hot take for today. I didn't like the movie Joker. But this isn't about that. This is about the debate surrounding how Arthur Fleck, I'm going to call him Joker, how he was portrayed. Because a lot of people were like, incels and murderers have been using Joker as a symbol for themselves for years now. So if we make a movie where Joker is an incel and a murderer, then incels and murderers are just going to become more attached to Joker, and they're going to become more incels and murderers. And then some people were like, no, that's not how movies work. They're clearly going to frame him in the narrative as being a bad guy. So it's not promoting incels and murderers, actually anti-incels and murderers. Then the film came out, and I think it was barely anti-incels and murderers. There's a scene at the end where my man basically says, we live in a society. He's like, we live in a society, and I can't say shit anymore. And I'm like, Todd Phillips, Yeah, you can. You made this movie. This fucked up little movie that you made. But this is not my personal opinion. This is about the copycat effect. What is the copycat effect? What the hell is the copycat effect, guys? I don't know. I do know. It's you who doesn't know. Listen the fuck up. The copycat effect is when something happens in a media, and then a bunch of people, I'm gonna call them morons, but you're not a moron for falling for brainwashing. That's on the brainwashing. A media is like, here's the thing, and everyone's like, oh, I can do the thing. That's a thing I can do. This is why Tide Pods happened. This is also, you know, we're gonna get a little bit dark here. I'm sorry for that. After 13 Reasons Why came out, bunch more suicide rates. The Slender Man games, those little girls tried to kill that other little girl because of the game. I guess it's not really the same thing because there's no active murder in Slender Man, but you see how the media caused it. And this one I found on Google when I typed in a copycat effect, and I thought it was hilarious because on the Wikipedia page for the copycat effect, it just says Fight Club. There have been many incidents inspired by the movie. And there's no further explanation. So I guess there's a bunch of fight clubs around that they can't talk. Oh. I'm not crying, my eyes are just watering, which I guess is crying, but it's not for a sad reason, it's for my eyes are wet, which is a gross thing to say. The point of this all is, you should be careful about how you show things in media, you know? You have, I think, a moral responsibility to show the, you know, murder and suicide and being an incel are bad things in movies. If you're making a movie and you're like, this guy's an incel murderer, but everyone loves him and he's great and he's lovely. He's not lovely because he's an incel murderer. But you know what I mean? If you made a movie like that, I think that would be a wrong thing to do. I mean, I'm not God, mostly, so, like, I don't dictate that, but from a personal opinion, I think you shouldn't be doing that. So, don't be doing that. I'm gonna get a bunch of Joker fans tell me off now. I hope I don't, but I'm worried I'm gonna. What we're gonna talk about now is a little show that aired on Fox between 2009 and 2015. And I'm sorry that it's come to this, but we're gonna talk about Glee. Is Glee bad and offensive? Absolutely. Glee is the worst show, and I've seen every episode. The point is Glee offensive? Yeah, Glee's offensive. Is that because it's framed bad? No. It's because the writing is bad. I actually started writing this video because I was thinking about Glee and how people misunderstand the way it's offensive. To be clear, I'm never in this part saying Glee isn't offensive. Glee is offensive. Glee's an offensive show, but not in the way you think. One example I've seen of people saying this is why Glee's offensive is there's a line where a character says, I should have written down the line. There's a line where a character says something along the lines of, bisexual people aren't real, that's just gay people trying to stay in the closet. And that's a bad thing to say, because bisexual people are real. And they're not just gay people trying to stay in the closet. But is Glee saying that it is? It's one of the main characters saying that. But let's look further into the scene. So, what happens directly in the scene is Blaine's like, I might be bisexual, and Kurt's like, oh, no, you're not, bitch. And then Blaine's like, that was actually really rude and derogatory of you, and this is actually very hypocritical considering your arc in the series so far. And then, as far as I remember, Kurt doesn't say anything. And then Blaine says possibly the best leaving line that I've ever seen in a show, and he just says, I'd say bye, but I wouldn't want to offend you. Bangin', dude. That was great. I love that line. Thanks, Blaine. But as we can see from this, Blaine opens up and Kurt is mean. We understand from our lived experience that's not a good thing. Kurt is in the wrong. We also understand Kurt is only saying this because he's in love with Blaine. So he has a motive to say something wrong here. So, and then Blaine rebuttals fairly and makes good arguments. So we're like, he's saying the right things. So Kurt's in the wrong. And then in the end, Blaine gets the final line, and it's a great final line. You always say, you know, and you get the last word. That's an idiom for winning an argument. So Blaine won the argument, so Kurt is wrong. So Glee isn't actually anti-bisexuals. I mean, it is, but not in this one scene. But the issue with this is that in the end of the episode, Blaine is like, oh, I'm not bisexual. And Kurt's never again confronted. So that seems like the episode as a whole is rewarding Kurt's bad action. You know, it justifies him in what he said, which it shouldn't do, because he said a wrong thing. But you can see how the framing in that scene is good. There's no problem with that. That's some good framing. It's just the whole episode. It's the storyline and the writing that ruins the framing and makes it all messy and makes it not work. So, on that note, can you have bad framing and good writing? Yeah, baby. That's 28 Weeks Later. I don't think that film was very well written, but parts of it are. In 28 Weeks Later, the first scene we see is this guy. I think he's called Robert Carlyle, but that might be what the actor's called. I don't really know. His wife is about to get eaten by a zombie, and he has the choice to either try and help her and probably get eaten by a zombie himself, or run away at the window. And he runs away at the window. And so everyone's like, whoa, bitch, you abandoned your wife. Abandoned your wife when she was going to get eaten by a zombie? But that's not true. He abandoned his wife because they have kids in another country who are totally safe. And he wants their kids to have at least a parent to come back to. He can either guarantee his kids have a parent when they get back, or he can guarantee his kids have no parents when they get back. So, you know, one in the hand is worth two in the bush. So he gets out of there, and that's a good decision that he makes. That's a good survival instinct choice. Now, the mother later survives because of reasons. And then everyone is like, dude, you left your alive wife to die? And he's like, he didn't know she was gonna live. He didn't know that he was following survival protocol. If anyone in my group, when the zombies come, is pulling shit like that, I'm kicking out the group. You're out of the gang. You're out. No saving your wives. Leave them. The point is, the framing here, from, you know, the music that's playing at the time and how everyone reacts to this, it's kind of framed to say this was a bad action of his, and he did the wrong thing here. When in reality, we know he kind of mostly did the right thing here. Like, he didn't really do the wrong thing. He was in the right the whole time. But the narrative is saying he wasn't. So we're not going to recreate his actions, and we're all going to die. 28 Weeks Later is killing people. Get that on the press. Someone call a newspaper. So, what have we learned in this fun romp through the worlds of narrative framing? We've learned that you should have good morals in the world. You can do this by framing the narrative using character reactions, or audience experiences, or music and sound, or cinematography. And we didn't talk about cinematography because I couldn't think of an example. But if we had done, this line would have made more sense. We've also learned, however, that all of this is very, very general, and there's like a lot of more complex issues. I just think, to get real with you for a minute, I've been watching a lot of the Marvel shows. I've been watching each week, and then I go to the internet and I see everyone's immediate live reactions. think the problem with doing that is some people who don't have quite the same level of media literacy will watch something and not get the framing that's being presented to them, and will think these shows are doing something wrong. Like, I talk about it in my last video with John Walker. You can go watch that video, by the way, it's very good. It's actually only okay. But John Walker, he's a guy, and he's a bad guy, and the show is like, he's a bad guy. And then I saw people afterwards being like, John Walker is such a bad guy, I can't believe Marvel would do this. And it's like, no, Marvel are not condoning this. They're anti this. But people don't quite get that. And so, I just wanted to just give you this lesson in narrative framing. Just to make sure you look out for it. Look out, think before you accuse a media of being morally bankrupt. Because sometimes there's just some subtle framing stuff going on there. And I would argue that actually, if the average person doesn't understand the narrative framing you've set up, you're doing it badly. You know, you shouldn't need someone to, go through and analyze your work to understand it. That should just be obvious, in my opinion. I think maybe, filmmakers and stuff, if you're watching this, probably not. If you want to be watching this, maybe frame your narrative a bit better. And if you're an audience member watching this, probably more likely. Maybe just think about things. Just look at media and be like, this is a bad guy, but am I being shown this is a bad guy? What's the director trying to tell me here? I just think the world will be a better place. Yeah, that's the video. There's a big blank space behind me in this video. Please ignore that. I haven't finished doing. I'm moving stuff in this room, and I haven't put anything there yet. So it looks bad, but we just gotta get over that. You can subscribe to me. Oh, the thing in the middle. I'm not covering it. There, can you see it? It's this thing. I think it's here, in this circle. That thing there. Probably 2 videos outside of me. One over there, one there. You can like the video. It's down the bottom somewhere. There. I don't know. I always used to watch YouTube videos and think, how do they not know what side the like button's on? But I don't know, because stuff inverts. So it's somewhere down there. Down at the bottom. Press it if you want. I don't know how long I have for these end cards. My voice might just get cut off at some point, just with no warning.